Have you ever felt like you're living behind invisible glass, watching everyone else move through life while you stand quietly on the outside? Maybe you're surrounded by people at work, at family gatherings, even in your own home, but there's this strange distance that you can't quite name or shake. You smile when you're supposed to smile. You nod when you're supposed to nod. But inside there's this growing sense that you're becoming a stranger to the world you once knew. If this resonates with something deep in your chest, something you've been carrying in silence, then this message was written for you. Because what you're experiencing isn't abandonment, it's awakening. And by the end of this message, you'll understand why this season of separation is actually preparing you for something sacred. You wake up in the morning and the routine feels hollow. The conversations that once entertained you now feel like echoes in an empty room. Your co-workers talk about promotions and weekend plans, and you find yourself nodding along while your mind wanders to deeper questions they never seem to ask. When did success stop feeling satisfying? When did laughter start feeling forced? You sit in meetings and wonder if anyone else feels the weight of pretending that quarterly reports and office politics actually matter in the grand scheme of eternity. Maybe you've tried to explain this feeling to the people closest to you. You've attempted to share the books that are changing your perspective, the quiet moments where you feel something shifting inside your soul, the growing hunger for conversations that go beyond the surface. But their eyes glaze over, or they make jokes about your midlife crisis, or they change the subject back to something safer, something that doesn't require them to look too deeply into their own hearts. And so you learn to keep these stirrings to yourself, which only deepens the sense of isolation. The friends who once filled your calendar with social obligations now feel like acquaintances speaking a language you're slowly forgetting. You decline more invitations. You spend more time alone, not out of depression, but out of a strange new need for silence, for space, for the kind of solitude where you can finally hear your own thoughts without the noise of everyone else's expectations. And this frightens them. They interpret your need for space as rejection, your hunger for depth as judgment, your transformation as abandonment. Would you still trust this process if it meant walking alone for longer than you hoped? Would you still believe there's purpose in this season if it required you to release relationships that no longer serve your growth? Stay with this feeling, because what comes next may explain the sacred work happening in the silence of your separation. Sometimes the most profound spiritual transitions begin not with revelation, but with disconnection. Sometimes God pulls you away from the familiar not to punish you, but to prepare you for something your current environment could never nurture. Think of a seed that must be buried in darkness before it can reach toward light. Think of the butterfly that must dissolve completely in the cocoon before emerging with wings. This season of feeling distant from everyone isn't evidence that something is wrong with you. It's evidence that something is awakening within you. Maybe that's why the small talk feels unbearable now. Your soul is expanding, and it can no longer fit into conversations about weather and gossip. Maybe that's why you feel overwhelmed in crowds. You're becoming more sensitive to energy, more aware of the unspoken pain that people carry, more attuned to the superficial masks that everyone wears to avoid looking at the deeper questions of existence. You're not becoming antisocial. You're becoming spiritually sensitive. What if this distance you feel isn't separation at all, but discernment? What if your spirit is learning to distinguish between connections that drain you and relationships that truly nourish your soul? What if God is teaching you the difference between being surrounded by people and being genuinely seen, between being busy with social obligations and being fulfilled through authentic community? The mind wants to fix this feeling immediately. It wants to return to the comfort of fitting in, of belonging to the groups that once defined you. But the soul understands that some seasons require solitude for the sacred work of transformation to unfold. Your spirit is being rewired. Your values are being realigned. Your capacity for deeper love is being expanded. And this process cannot happen while you're still trying to maintain relationships that require you to stay small, to avoid difficult conversations, to pretend that surface-level living still satisfies your growing hunger for meaning. This is where faith meets psychology, where spiritual growth intersects with emotional intelligence. you're not losing your ability to connect with people. You're developing the wisdom to recognize which connections are worth your precious time and energy. You're learning to honor the voice within you that whispers toward truth, even when that truth makes others uncomfortable. You're discovering that loneliness and aloneness are not the same thing, that solitude can be sacred, and that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for others is to stop enabling their resistance to growth by pretending you haven't changed. Your empathy is expanding, but so is your discernment. You feel their pain more deeply now, which makes it harder to engage in conversations that avoid addressing the root causes of that pain. You want to help them see what you're beginning to see, but they're not ready for that level of awakening. And so you learn to love them from a distance, to pray for their journey while honoring your own, to release them with compassion rather than resentment. And here's where everything begins to make sense. This season of spiritual transition, this time of feeling distant from everyone, is not a detour from your destiny. It's the pathway to it. This distance isn't random. It's intentional. God sometimes orchestrates seasons of separation, not to isolate you, but to insulate you from influences that would dilute the work He's doing in your heart. Think about it. How many times have you tried to grow while surrounded by voices that questioned every step of your transformation? How many times have you attempted to heal while maintaining relationships that required you to stay wounded, to keep others comfortable? The wilderness wasn't punishment for the Israelites. It was preparation. 40 years of learning to trust divine provision when human logic said it was impossible. 40 years of discovering that manna appears exactly when you need it, not when you want it. 40 years of understanding that sometimes the longest route to your promise is actually the shortest path to your purpose. Your spirit recognizes what your mind resists. This season of feeling distant from everyone is sacred preparation for connections that will actually see you, understand you, and grow alongside you rather than expecting you to shrink to accommodate their comfort zones. You're not being prepared for more of the same relationships. You're being prepared for covenant connections that honor both your humanity and your divinity. Maybe that's why the conversations feel so hollow now. Your soul has tasted depth, and it can no longer pretend that surface-level interactions satisfy your hunger for authentic connection. Maybe that's why you feel emotionally overwhelmed in crowds. You're developing spiritual sensitivity that allows you to perceive the unspoken pain, the masked insecurities, the quiet desperation that others work so hard to hide behind their social personas. This isn't a burden, it's a gift. But like all spiritual gifts, it requires wisdom to steward well. You're learning to love people without absorbing their unhealed trauma. You're developing compassion without enabling dysfunction. You're discovering how to offer presence without losing yourself in other people's emotional chaos. The loneliness you feel isn't evidence of divine abandonment. It's evidence of divine preparation. God is creating space in your life, clearing away relationships and environments that would interfere with the deeper work He wants to accomplish in your heart. Sometimes love looks like removal. Sometimes protection appears as isolation. Sometimes the most merciful thing God can do is separate you from connections that drain your spirit while you're learning to recognize your own worth. One day you'll look back on this season and understand that what felt like disconnection was actually divine redirection. The distance wasn't punishment, but preparation for connections that honor both your growth and your peace. Trust the process, embrace the solitude, and know that your awakening is leading you exactly where your soul needs to be.